Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Bet the Edge, and thank everyone watching on our NBC Sports YouTube channel or listening in podcast form. If you've been catching Thursday's episodes, you've been cashing on Thursday's episodes. And all Drew and I ask is you to drop a like because we've been working hard, and so have producers Dan and Adam. So coming up today, I'm sorry to say we have 8 college football games to break down, not 9, Drew. Darn it, man. But we do have an interesting AFC West matchup on Thursday Night Football between Russell Wilson and the Broncos plus Taylor Swift and the Chiefs. Well, I mean, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Drew, how do you do?
I'm doing well, man. And yeah, it has been a remarkably positive betting season for me in college, which is kind of rare. For the most part, I tend to zero in on NFL, so this has been a nice little bonus. And your reads have been spot on. So congratulations to you, Vaughn. Can't wait to hear what you think about some of these games. There's some good ones this week.
There are a lot of good games this week. I'm super excited. Had I guess the best week of the season on Saturday's show.
Nice.
We went 5 wins, 0 losses, and a push. So I guess that's pretty good. 7-1 was our best week, so you could take either one, I guess. But yeah, Drew, we're hitting 65% of the season in college football on the official plays, and we got a couple for today's episode. So let's get started. We'll start with the biggest game on the board. Well, arguably, depending on who you're a fan of, we got a top 10 matchup between Oregon and Washington. The Huskies are the home team, and they're laying 2.5 points as the favorite. The total sitting at 67.5, and actually the spread's moved to 3 now, Drew. So that's a key number here. Enticing to bet Oregon or not?
You know, it is enticing to bet them, and the reason may not be what you would expect, considering the history of these matchups are usually first to 40 wins type of, kind of vibes. You have 2 elite offenses here. There is no denying that. I have watched the Washington Huskies as the third, almost tied for second, passing USC and only behind Oklahoma in terms of passing efficiency relative to opponents so far this season is the Washington Huskies. But the Oregon running offense is unbelievably good. They are, up there in rarefied air, but these are 2 elite offenses with different strengths. And as you look at how they match up against their opposing defenses, you have a Washington defense that's pretty much average. They're better than average, but they're in sort of the average band in terms of EPA per play, whereas Oregon's pass defense might be the best in the country. And I think that's going to be the matchup to watch, the matchup to really circle. Can Oregon's pass defense really stifle Michael Penix Jr. and the Washington Huskies, which are, truly elite? And my general sense is that they will. And so this is going to come down to how does Washington respond in terms of rushing defense to Oregon's rushing offense. I kind of want to back the Ducks on the money line here, to be honest with you. I think that this could be a lower scoring game than the market makes for a couple of reasons. As mentioned, the explosiveness of Washington is probably not going to be there considering the, who they're up against. And I think that this is going to come down to, can Washington run the ball effectively? And can Washington's defense stop Oregon's run? And if this were in Oregon, I would make this more like Oregon definitely above 3. And so the fact that it's sitting at 3 in Washington makes me like the Ducks here. Even though I can't take anything away from the Huskies, they've been a great team this year. You tell me, where do you land on this?
I think this is the priority. This is the number 1 live betting game of the weekend. Like if you're trying to live bet a game, I think within the first drive of each offense, you're going to know exactly what this game is going to look like. But I also think that the biggest talking point of this game and the biggest outcome of this game is what happens in the Heisman voting and Heisman poll. Okay. We have Michael Penix, who is the leader in the clubhouse for Heisman odds. Second is Caleb Williams of USC, who plays Notre Dame, which we'll get to that later in the show. And then Bo Nix is third in Heisman odds right now. So we could literally have our front runner at the end of this weekend. If Caleb Williams and one of these 2 quarterbacks loses, which we know they will, we're going to know who's the clear front runner. And I think that's your best bet, taking the winning quarterback of this game to win the Heisman. Any opinion there, Drew?
Well, I mean, this is a super tough test for Michael Penix. I gotta go with Oregon and Bo Nix. you're getting a better price too. I mean, I've kind of, I've gotten a decent amount of equity already in some Dylan Gabriel thanks to his upset win against Texas last week, and I think we add Bo Nix to the mix here, and that's how this gets decided. I definitely, I mean, USC's defense is so bad. Like their loss is coming. It's just a matter of when. Could be this week. Yeah. So I think I mean I'm okay grabbing some Knicks, adding that to Dylan Gabriel, and we ride into December.
And Bo Nix is floating around the plus 400 to plus 450 range. So you're still getting good value on that. If he beats them this week, he'll be the favorite, and I'll probably be between plus 150 to plus 200 because there still will be some other horses pulling up from behind. But certainly we'll have a favorite here this weekend. So we're leading the Ducks here on the show, and I don't hate that either because I can't pick a side in this one. So I'd rather take the underdog for the plus money. Let's talk top 25 matchup, Miami Hurricanes at North Carolina Tar Heels. Drew, I don't know if you saw what happened to Miami last weekend against Georgia Tech, but they had the option to kneel down with about 30 seconds to go, and instead they ran the ball, and, they fumbled. And Georgia Tech picked it up 26 seconds later, then the end zone to win the game. And Miami loses when they could have just nailed the ball. So this is a big spot for the Hurricanes on the road at North Carolina. The Tar Heels are 3.5-point favorites. Totals moved from 55.5 to 57.5. The last 4 meetings, Drew, both teams have scored at least 24 points. UNC's won 4 straight. So I like the over. Now the totals moved a little. We passed 2 key numbers in college football. But Miami, they got to be PO'd. They got to be hungry here looking for a win. What do you think?
I appreciate that you gave the listeners the context, but let's be honest. I think everyone on earth saw what happened to Miami because that was one of the most boneheaded coaching decisions that has happened in college football this year. And if this was the first time that it happened with Mario, that would have been one thing, but it's not even. This guy is a repeat offender of not taking the win, and it is appalling. If you are a Miami Hurricanes fan, I don't know how you get over this one because they were playing some awesome football so far this year. Their offense is elite. It's a better passing offense than UNC which is amazing to say because UNC has a top 2 prospect in the quarterback draft for the NFL next year. But their passing offense is better than UNC's. Their rushing offense is better than UNC's. Their rushing defense is elite. Whereas UNC's rushing defense is average. And I think this is going to come down to basically UNC being able to put some pressure on North Carolina on the ground. If and when they have the lead, I think they'll be able to run out the game. And this is assuming that Mario has learned his lesson by now. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, never get fooled again. I mean, this is got to be an opportunity to try to buy low on a Miami team that everybody has just had fun dunking on all week. I think in a neutral field, I would make this one Miami -3. So the fact that you're on the other side of 3.5 here, I think gets me into a bet on the Hurricanes. As silly as that may sound, in the light of what just happened.
No, that's the angle. It's an overreaction. The public's going to overreact to what Miami just did and think, well, they lost now. They have no hopes of making the college football playoff. They're probably not going to win the ACC. So it's clear North Carolina's definitely going to beat them. Like they're number 12. That's not the case. So not that I'm going to sit here and say, go bet Miami right now. If the first drive of the game is not a score and that over-under drops below 55, that's how I'm going to approach this game. I'm going to grab that over right away because I think we have 2 good quarterbacks, 2 teams that like to play offense, 2 defenses that may be a little overrated based on who they've played so far. So that's kind of my angle of attack here. But, Miami should not be slept on still. That game, is an asterisk next to it because they did win that game, but they lost the game, obviously, Drew. The toughest game of the week and the biggest game of the week, like we said, outside of Oregon, Washington, would have to be USC at Notre Dame. This game is on NBC and Peacock, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. The Fighting Irish are favorites, 2.5-point favorites at home. That looks like that's going to get to a 3. The over-under is at 60.5, which has moved up from 57.5 at some places. I think the books are telling us Notre Dame's going to win this game. And, I mean, last week, if you guys listened to us, we talked about the fatigue factor for Notre Dame, having played Ohio State, then going on the road to Duke, then on the road to Louisville. Now they come back home to USC. Trojans don't look good either right now the last 3 weeks. So I like Notre Dame here. I might end up playing the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. USC has the best offense in the country overall, opponent adjusted. Sure. Their rushing offense is elite. Their passing offense is top 3. Notre Dame is right in the mix, though. Right now, I make Notre Dame the 5th best passing offense in college football, and their rushing offense is great, not elite. So the question is, can they get into a positive game state against a very weak, Trojans defense? And yeah, I think they can. Looking at Notre Dame's defense, that's kind of been the big letdown so far this year, if you really want to be honest. I thought that Freeman and company really were building something that was defensive focused, and this was going to be an under team over the balance of the season, but it's not. Like, this defense is flat out average. They haven't really been tested all that much. And so I think the name of the game is either take the home Domers or play the over. I think 60.5 is actually quite low. I know that it took a couple of overtimes for the total to get there last week with USC, but I look at this Notre Dame defense as being a team that I'm not super excited to trust that they're going to be able to keep USC from comeback mode, at which point this game could turn into a track meet. So I think both teams go over 30 points here. I think it's very close in the end. Could be another one decided in overtime. But there are definitely potentials that USC gets beat based on the way that their defense is playing.
Yes, first time all season, USC are underdogs, which, like I said, I believe that is telling to some degree here, because they are a very good offensive team. Like, I agree with you. I think they are the best offensive team in the country. And last weekend, I had a very good Saturday. So I used some of my winnings on USC money line when they were down 17-0 to Arizona, because I said, I can't remember the last time Arizona's beat them. And I had to sweat that out, Drew. And this is not as easy as I thought it would be. But USC, I think that they are very beatable. And it's going to happen, if not this week, in the upcoming weeks. So this is, I agree. Solely Notre Dame or pass. And the Fighting Irish, as much as they've looked sluggish offensively the last 3 weeks, they have played 3 very good defenses in the toughest stretch of football, probably. 95% of teams have played so far this season, you'd have to say.
Sure.
That stretch of Ohio State, Duke, and Louisville was no joke. So, this is going to be an easier game versus a tougher opponent, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. But I also will say the general market sentiment here is a little concerning. There's been some pressure to the total. It's been bet down. And I don't agree with that really at all. If there's one of these 2 units that's out of gas, it's the defense. If there's one of these 2 units that's overrated, it's the defense. I think the back-to-back tough contests against Duke and Louisville were one thing, but I think this is going to be an offensive game. So going against the steam here, playing an over in a USC game, and hoping that this gets there without having to sweat overtime, but we'll see.
You haven't had to sweat many overs in USC games this season, so I'm with you, my friend. One team that I think, in the game in general, I think we're not going to see many points, and I lean the under in, is UCLA at Oregon State. If I do add a play to my card this Saturday, Oregon State is one of the contenders, whether it's the under 54.5 or Oregon State minus the 3.5. 2 teams, Drew, that we've talked about almost every single week here, and that I feel like I've had a lot of success on is UCLA and Utah. And they're very similar teams that struggle offensively. UCLA has a freshman quarterback, Dante Moore, who I don't believe in. I backed them last week, but it was solely a non-ranked home favorite against a ranked road dog. We all know in college sports, the unranked home team that's favored is always the play against a road ranked team. But the situation for UCLA becomes a fade spot, in my opinion. And UCLA hasn't played at Oregon State since 2015. So not only will the players not have much experience there, a lot of the staff likely will not either. So I do like Oregon State here, as they won't have to acclimate to anything. UCLA will have to acclimate to a lot in this game. Your opinion, Drew?
Yeah, I think Oregon State did finally get something going on the road last week against California. Now they return to the friendly confines. In general, my lean has always been home team in these, Pac-12 matchups. I will note that, we kind of were glowing about Oregon's offense, and Oregon State's right there. This is an elite passing offense. It's an elite rushing offense. And their defense is average. And I got to tell you, UCLA overall this year has been a huge disappointment defensively. And so I think the Beavers have an advantage with their defense and UCLA offense on the field. And then the question becomes, can their passing offense get the better of what has been one of the better? Actually, oh my goodness, I'm looking at it right now. UCLA is a top 2 defense this year, and defense does travel. So this looks pretty straightforward to me, man. Under 54.5. We have positive matchups for both defenses and UCLA offense on the road that might score like 3 or 10 points.
Yeah, I don't trust UCLA's offense on the road. That's why I do like the under here. And like I said, lean Oregon State. And another factor for back in the Beavers, because this is a big game for them, they control their own destiny in the Pac-12. If you remember the Pac-12, I believe it was last year, maybe the year prior to that, they implemented the new rules now where they don't have the separate standings for the leagues. It's basically best record gets in. Well, teams are going to be sorting themselves out with USC this week. Then we got Oregon and Washington. Of course, they still have to play USC, those 2 teams, or Oregon does at least. But Oregon State, if they beat UCLA, they're 6-1 in the year, 3-1 in conference. They play Arizona, Colorado, and Stanford the next 3 weeks, Drew. Those are all wins for them, in my opinion. Okay. And then you have Washington at home and on the road at Oregon. And then that's your Pac-12 championship after that. So there's a road for Oregon State. And if UCLA, is stepping in the way of that, I like the Beavers. I like the Beavers against the freshman quarterback.
You know what's funny, Vaughn? That wasn't an accidental slip of the tongue. This feels like Utah, Oregon State all over again. 21-7. 21-7 for the Beavers. First to 20 wins. Like that's exactly how I make this game in terms of matchup. And I think your point is completely fair. The Beavers, they're going to go. The rest of the schedule looks pretty doggone favorable for them until we get to Thanksgiving at Oregon and rivalry games. You know what? Throw the records out, man. You throw the records out. There's no love lost between the Beavers and the Ducks, man.
Boomer Sooner, baby.
I think if you can take care of business here and have your, and then kind of put it in cruise control until you get to the your finale versus Washington at Oregon, then you can secure yourself a spot.
Yeah, I'll be taking Oregon State in that game, especially if they win out from here on out against Oregon. I'm still excited, Drew, about the Oklahoma money line win against Texas. That was sprinkle awesome. We talked about, and I said I think it's gonna happen. And I also won the UCLA bet. So Eric Froton owes me roast beef on Saturday's show. So if you want to watch me eat roast beef and you watch Eric Froton and Brad Thomas give out college football bets for Week 7, then you guys should come through Saturday morning, October 14th, 11 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be a fun week. Like we said, we got number 10 USC taking on number 21 Notre Dame in South Bend on NBC and Peacock. Caleb Williams is no longer the Heisman favorite, so huge game for him. We talked about that, Mark, with Michael Penix Jr. taking over there. So a lot going on in college football this weekend, and we want to help you guys out on Saturday. Pretty sure Eric went 14-3 on Saturday's show with props. I went 5-0-1, and I think Brad, I want to say, went 5-2, 6-3. So if you like those numbers,
you guys are going to get people kicked out of these these accounts, man.
Yeah, we obviously
that's too hot.
That's sponsored by BetMGM. Drew, I signed up for one of our old sponsors over the weekend, and they limited me by the nights.
Sounds right.
Yeah, we were doing well. We're doing well, but I'm not on that book anymore. Best bet for this weekend, Drew, is in the first game we're talking about. Indiana at Michigan. Wolverines laying 33.5. Total sitting at 45.5. It opened at 49.5. Made no sense. What's my bet, Drew?
It really could be anything. I feel like you have such a varied opinion when it comes to the Wolverines and how they're going to win games. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to take a stab. Indiana team total under.
Oh, how could you have guessed? Oh my God, this guy's so smart.
You know what? If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. I like it. This Michigan defense is amazing. Nothing about what Indiana is doing right now is working at all. Indiana for me is the third worst. Oh, I'm sorry, fourth. I didn't see Michigan State there. Sorry, Spartans.
Who Michigan
worst.
plays next week?
Oh boy! Oh my gosh! Indiana is. I would take Iowa State's offense over Indiana's right now, and Iowa State can barely get out of the backfield with their running attack right now. It's nothing's going right here for Indiana. Their defense also pretty questionable. So this has all of the whiffs of just being a lopsided blowout. The market obviously is kind of giving you continuing to give you an opportunity to take the Wolverines in these situations where they're just so clearly the better team. I think that there's a little bit like the Big Ten is a little bit broken this year. Like we're just not used to seeing dominance like we have. Like the disparity between the haves and the have-nots in the Big Ten right now is enormous. And I think you basically you're going to have to capitalize on, not really knowing how to price how good Michigan is. I mean, you know what? Let's pour one out though for one of the better streaks that we had going this season, which was Michigan not giving up double digits in a game. 10 points for Minnesota. I mean, it is what it is, but Minnesota still didn't make their team total, which is again head scratcher why they gave us that number, but so be it. No, I lean Michigan here. I think this should be over 35, and I agree that Indiana on the team total probably. If they score. Well done.
Yeah, the total was 6.5 when I is it still tweeted out, Drew? Is that the correct term? It's X now. They X'd out. Is that what you said?
I don't say any
of
that.
I don't know.
But maybe that is what maybe that's right.
I'm about to turn 30 pretty soon, so like I'm losing out on the lingo,
Sure.
But we'll just call it tweeted, Drew. But I tweeted out the team total under 6.5, and when I woke up this morning, that was on Monday. When I woke up Thursday morning, it was 5.5.
Wow. Okay.
Plus 105 to the under, so they still don't think Indiana's scoring a touchdown. And I would say if you're scared of playing 5.5 because there's 2 field goals, obviously, you could play the under 0.5 touchdowns scored for Indiana, which is essentially the same thing. And that's minus 130 odds. So of course it's juice, but for the right reasoning. But Indiana's only scored 7 and 10 in their last 2 trips to Michigan. And I mean, Michigan's defense is the best one of Jim Harbaugh's era. 73 out of 74 players that traveled to the Minnesota game played. The only one wasn't a long snapper. So I feel bad for that long snapper.
I guess it's maybe worth mentioning Indiana is coming off extra rest here. They have a bye. They haven't played since September 30th, but the talent disparity is so great. I honestly don't know what they do to fix things here. And
doesn't scare me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there'll be a bet. Maybe there'll be a buy low in Indiana after this week, but probably not. This is an offense that's just can't get out of its own way against the elite defenses, as we saw week 1 when they scored 3 points against Ohio State. So good luck to the Hoosiers.
That's pretty much my reference point for this game. And you mentioned briefly, I want to bring up the stat because we're not talking about this game in particular in breakdown. But when you mentioned Iowa State's offense being better than Indiana's, Iowa State is in a situation, Drew, that I think I've done so well this number because I haven't bought into trends or looked for trends. I've just played what I like and capped the games. But Iowa State is in an insane trend right now. When they are underdogs of 7 or less points since 2017, the under has hit 21 straight times.
What? How is that possible?
That's what someone tweeted out, and it's going all over Twitter, and people are saying that it even hit last week. But and the unders have gone under by a total of 16.5 points, which is a huge discrepancy.
Yeah,
we have a total of 45 with Iowa State on the road at Cincinnati. So I might blindly bet the under 45, but if it loses, this is exactly why I stopped betting trends in particular, Drew.
Wow, that is pretty surprising. I mean, Iowa State's defense is pretty good.
Yeah, really good.
So basically,
Well, not
like,
really good.
so basically, the idea is like in games where they're competitive, it's where they're huge dogs and they're competitive, it's because their defense shows up and just kind of limits the other team from running away, and so the game goes under. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one worth looking at least this week. But Indiana team total under, game under, whatever you like. I don't think Indiana puts up any points, maybe a field goal at the best. Switching over to another Big Ten matchup. This game is noon on Peacock Eastern time. Ohio State laying 19.5 at Purdue, total sitting at 49.5. Intriguing that Ohio State was finished at a 20-point favorite against Maryland last week, 19.5 in some spots, either pushed or covered with their second half comeback. Now they are laying the exact same number at a Purdue team that is obviously far less rated than Maryland. In the last 3 times Ohio State's played Purdue, Drew, they've scored 49, 56, and 59 points themselves. This could be a spot where Purdue gets just smacked up on because Ohio State is really upset about what happened last week. But Ohio State has Penn State next week, which is a look-ahead spot. So how are we betting this game?
That's interesting.
First half, probably, right, for Ohio State.
I mean, I think a lot of the models are broken on Ohio State because they've been such a completely different team than we're used to handicapping. And I mean, I'll put my hand up. Like, I just didn't understand how different this year's Ohio State team was. They have an elite top 5 defense in all of college football. That defense is amazing at stopping the run, and they are very good at stopping the pass. Purdue cannot run the ball. Purdue cannot pass the ball. So Purdue is not going to score in this game, in my opinion. And then the Ohio State offense, a very, very decent passing offense, but their rushing attack is woeful. I don't really get why they can't get going on the ground. It seems like they have decent run blocking. It seems like they have enough talent there that they ought to get going. This is a chance for them to get going on the ground because Purdue's run defenses it's kind of down there about equal to Indiana. It's about on par with some of the bottom tier defenses. Their pass defense is better than their run defense, from what I can tell you, looking at some of the adjusted numbers. So I think what this comes down to is Ohio State scoring early, scoring often, and just kind of putting away a pretty ugly win, which doesn't really jive with the total of sitting at 49.5. So I think if I had to find a way into this game, just give me some under.
Yeah, I don't have any belief in Purdue's team, offense or defense right now. And I didn't expect much for them coming into the season. Ryan Walters, I like him as a coach, but it's certainly a project. And we've been talking about this on Saturdays for almost every time we talk about Purdue. Like years 2 and 3, we're going to see constant improvement from this team. But right now, they're just in laydown spots continually. And in the first half of this game, I think it might be a laydown spot where Ohio State comes out and smacks up on them. So if you can get a team total, anything around 16.5 to 18.5, I think that's a pretty good number. I think Ohio State can get 20-plus points here in the first half against Purdue before they relax in the second half because they got Penn State next week, and that's a big game.
You said it. Second half under.
Yeah, second half under. That is actually, yes.
Why make this complicated? Ohio State takes a 3-score lead into halftime, put it in Penn.
Yep, yeah, I'm with you too, exactly. That is the best way of attack this, and that's why we do these shows, and that's why I look forward to doing these shows every week with you, Drew, in particular, because – you always get leans, you write them out, you do your stats, you do your cash, but then you get to talk to them live with somebody else. And then the gears start rolling or start turning, and then you know what you got here. And every week on Saturdays, we do a people's parlay where we get 3 picks. And Eric, Brad, and myself all do 1 pick. And we need a winner. We lost last week. Part of it was my fault. We had Fresno State and Notre Dame who both lost. Embarrassing, man. You can't take road favorites. So a home team here, Maryland laying 14 against Illinois. Illinois is one of the worst rush defenses. You just mentioned a couple of them. Illinois is in that conversation. The total was at 50.5. I think my people's parlay pick is going to be Maryland first quarter minus 3.5. Now we're getting spicy here. Not only did Maryland have a meltdown against Ohio State in the second half, they looked great in the first half against them, but in their 3 home games this year, Maryland scored 7, 21, and 21 points in the first quarter. Illinois on the road in their first quarter, 0 and 3 points. And last week at home, a 0 spot against Nebraska. The day after Dick Butkus passed away, how rude of Illinois not to even do anything in that game and show up, to be honest with you. But Maryland's offense, Drew, far too dynamic and explosive for Illinois. I wouldn't talk anyone off 14, but the first quarter -3.5, that's my people's parlay pick.
Okay. I don't disagree with that at all. I think the mismatch here that stands out on paper is Maryland's rushing attack against Illinois' rushing defense. And when you have an advantage in the run game and you're at home, that typically means, that you're going to be able to put away a lead pretty comfortably, and you may be able to pad that lead. So I think, just from a side perspective, I would look at Maryland or pass. 14 is a big number. But the Iowa, the Iowa's major weakness this year has been through the air. Illinois. Illinois' major weakness this year has been through the air. Their running attack is fine, a little bit better than average among the Power Five. And Maryland's defense is good. They're good at stopping the pass. And I think really what that sets up is every sort of third and medium to third and long, Illinois is very low probability of converting. And so that sets up a lot of opportunities here for Illinois punts. And then Maryland to just turn around and run some balanced offense, get it going on the ground, and put away a pretty comfortable win here. So would say that Maryland is the side. Would look at team total under for Illinois here, just because, again, like their passing offense is not going to be able to do much. And if we get to a second half and Maryland is up a couple scores and then they really got to pivot to the pass, forget about it.
Forget about it. A lot of unders on the show today, which is the profitable way of betting, in case people haven't realized that. Yeah,
especially in the middle of October.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of teams getting tired on the grind, back-to-back roadies.
There's some weather starting.
We're gonna get to that here. I think there's gonna be some weather in this next game, Drew, because not only did I give out the under 37.5 in Iowa at Wisconsin, which I mean, like, no, duh, we're playing an under in Iowa versus Wisconsin. But now the total is 34.5.
Oh my God.
I mean, I told everyone, play it down to 35. The last 3 times these teams met, 24-10, 27-7, 28-7, all 35 or fewer points. But 34.5, man, like, we're getting into over territory, but this is still an under.
No. No.
Iowa on the road cannot score more than 14, right? There's no way.
Is that their team total, 14?
It was 13.5. And I asked Brad Thomas, I called him. I didn't even text him. I called him and I said, hey, I can't decide if I should bet both or one or the other between the team total under for Iowa or the game under. He said, but Iowa's defense could get them in some good field position or run back an interception for a touchdown, etc. But I don't think Iowa scores more than 17. 14 possible, 17 no way.
So
I don't even think they get to 10.
So here's the thing. Wisconsin's probably only going to attempt like 10 passes.
They don't.
Why would they throw the ball?
You go up 7 points in this game. I mean, you're chilling.
Yeah. Great. Call it a game. Let's be a little more serious here. Iowa and Wisconsin have elite defenses in Power 5 college football. Wisconsin has the better pass defense. Iowa has the better run defense. But Wisconsin's strength of defense is as good above average as Iowa's offense is below average in college football. So there is an absolute chasm here when Iowa has the football and they're facing this Wisconsin defensive unit. And honestly, again, like same sort of problem we were talking about with the last game. Iowa's not going to be able to throw on these guys, period. So every third and long is almost a guaranteed punt. And I think Wisconsin, if I want to say something positive about Wisconsin's offense, their rushing attack, pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good. And I would say that Wisconsin probably comes out of this game with a run split, something in the ballpark of 40 rushing attempts, 10 passes. If they do that at home, I think they win and they cover. And I think they can, they're shooting for a final score in the ballpark of 28-0-ish. Lean Wisconsin. Actually, I think Wisconsin's the only play here, and you're hoping that they get it done on the ground and don't even try to get it through the air.
Yeah, I am obviously hoping my under is an easy breezy win because I got all the closing line value, but I still lean the under 34.5. I'd play the Iowa's team total under as an alternative. And one thing you mentioned was the third downs. Iowa has the second worst third down conversion rate on offense in the country at 27%. And both defenses, top 50 in third down defense, and both defenses are top 12 in red zone defense, top 30 in scoring defense. So
Wow.
defense, allergic to offense is what this game will look like. But I'm with you. Wisconsin should be the right side. Hopefully my under hits easily too. Any other college football takes before we flip to the NFL, Drew?
I don't think so. I think we basically nailed it. Yeah, just again, keep an eye on weather. We are in that time of season, and I think realistically, these college offenses that have proven not to be able to throw the ball when they go on the road and when they're dogs, I think they're pretty much drawn dead.
Yeah, and definitely look at scheduling too for these teams going on back-to-back road games, are having bye weeks now. Teams are starting to be introduced to the bye weeks too. So you need to decide if that's a positive influence or a negative one. A team like Indiana, it will not matter, as we talked about. But a team like the Tennessee Vols taking on A&M, who's played some tough games, that will matter. But if you want to hear more about that, Saturday show, check it out. But Sunday Night Football, Drew, it's going to be a good one if you like favorites. Bills Mafia be out in full force when they take on Daniel Jones and the Giants. Josh Allen and the Bills are the home team in this one. Coverage of this game starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. I believe the Bills were 14-point favorites, 13.5 at some spots last time I looked. Any quick thoughts on Josh Allen taking on Daniel Jones?
He needs to step up, man. He needs to play at an MVP level. I think he can do it against a weak Giants defense because the injuries to the Bills, man. Oh, Milano on IR, Daquan Jones on IR, Trey White on IR. Like this is rough, man. It's been a tough 2 weeks to be a Buffalo Bills fan because that defense was peaking 1 week ago. They were the highest power rated team in football. And right now, you're not even first in your division. And your defense all of a sudden is depleted at all three levels with super important pieces.
Yeah, no, I can't take the Giants, but I do hear you're out in a lot of ways. Buffalo to me, laying 14 is never a confident bet, or laying double digits with Buffalo is never a confident bet for me. But I did talk myself out of fading the Giants last week in my ATS contest, so I was kind of upset about that one, Drew. But one I might consider for this week are the Chiefs laying 10.5 against the Broncos, who haven't covered a spread this season. Denver is 0-4-1 against the spread. So if you believe in those type of trends, obviously you're going to be on Kansas City here, laying the 10.5 at home at Arrowhead. The total has dropped. Opened at 50.5, 51 in some spots, which I thought was pretty insane since we just had a 52 between the Chiefs and the Vikings. Now it's down to 47.5, Drew. So what do you make of this game, and why has the total dropped so much?
Yeah, it's weather, man. The major influence in the total here, and if you didn't already know this, the magic number is 20 miles an hour. It's not as much about rain. It's not as much about snow. In fact, sometimes snow can influence an over because all of a sudden defenses can't get footing on the pass rush, and your offense knows where their routes are going and their defense doesn't. And it can just turn into sort of backyard football in some snow. But when there's wind, it impacts the downfield pass. It impacts the field goal kickers. And it also impacts the coach's decision making when they're in the middle of the field. If you have a team that is kind of on the fence about going for a 50-yard field goal and the wind is blowing at 20 miles an hour, pretty good chance they're just going to opt for a punt. And so in general, decision-making at the very top changes in windy conditions and influences games to the under relative to a neutral weather situation. All that said, the market is onto this early. This is the first win game we've had all season. And I don't 100% know if this is going to finally qualify Right now, as I look at 7 p.m. in Kansas City on AccuWeather, I'm seeing 15 mile an hour projected, but gusts up to 33. So it could be a little squirrely, a little swirly. And in doing that, kind of keep some of these teams from really trying long field goals. Denver on a short week on the road against the team that has just manhandled them now for so many years in a row is, probably drawing dead. I think the key kind of matchup thinking here, you had a Denver team that went into last week with a little bit of confidence offensively. They were playing a little bit better. It looked like there was, some repair in the relationship between Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. And then they went against an elite defense that had the ability to cover and force Russell Wilson to make throws into tight windows. Rather than do that, he elected to take sacks, and it really stymied the entire offense for the Broncos. Russell Wilson is not better than a league average quarterback the way he's playing football right now. And I think against a Chiefs team that also has the ability to cover quite well, he is going to have a difficult time on the road here. I would expect Chris Jones can win his 1v1s against the Broncos O-line that's not very good. And then when the Chiefs have the ball, it's going to be a healthy serving of Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah,
it is a flashing red siren light how poor the Broncos are at defending the run so far this season. A ton of that is because they have been without a number of key players, both on the D-line and at the linebacker level. As of right now, it looks like Frank Clark is out. It looks like Browning is out. And Justin Simmons is in. All told, I think you're looking at the Broncos likely tacking. Oh, yeah, DJ Jones, too. DJ Jones is out. So the Chiefs are probably going to tack into a rushing heavy attack, try to keep Travis Kelce from, continuing to sustain unnecessary injuries. Maybe they opt for a little bit of short passing rhythm, passing attack with Mahomes and company. But I think the Chiefs get a pretty comfortable win here. And if I had to take a side, I would lay the Chiefs. And at this point, I think the steam to the under was correct. And betting anything under 47 is a no-go for me.
Yeah, it's too low for me to take now. But I do think there's still some bets out there that could be made. I like the Isaiah Pacheco breakdown a lot there, and I think that he was someone I was considering for my first touchdown score bet, Drew. Getting him at plus 400 or better, and using a couple boosts might get that plus 600, plus 700. But I do agree. I think the Chiefs will be on the ground a lot here. They've won 15 straight against the Broncos, dating back to 2015, and 7 straight at home. So they do own them, like you said. But I'm going to try and go sicko mode here. Just do something disgusting that a few weeks ago when we did this show, I told you Packers first quarter team total under 3.5 against the Lions was the bet. They picked off Jared Goff on the first drive, kicked a field goal, and didn't score the rest of the first quarter. And we cashed.
I don't even think they scored the rest of the first half, did they?
No, they didn't. I lied. And you said, why not just take the first half under for better money? And then when they score in the first quarter, I'm like, stupid Drew. He thinks he knows so much. But yeah, I lied about that because I was like, in case Drew is right, I'm going to take that too. And then both of them were just easy cashes. So I was like, thank you. But we're going to do something that we can't let happen in that like we did last time. We're going to take the Broncos team total under first quarter 2.5. So they can't score. They can get a safety, but that's not going to happen. So with this thinking here, Drew, when I looked up the statistics, talk about regression due for a team.
Yeah.
The Detroit Lions averaged 9 points in the first quarter. That's the highest scoring team in the NFL first quarter. The Denver Broncos are second, then the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
The Denver Broncos averaged 8.2 points in the first quarter. When you look at their schedule and who they played, kind of makes sense on why that's happened, but what I thought was interesting when I go back and look at their last 4 matchups against the Chiefs, they haven't scored in the first quarter in 3 of those 4 games. And the one they did score was a field goal. So the Denver Broncos cannot score in the first quarter of games against the Chiefs, but it also Andy Reid owns this team, knows how to play this team. We're getting plus 105 to plus 115 for the first quarter team total under for the Broncos. Like you said, short week, they're on the road. The wind is a factor. Now we're talking about field goals, maybe opting into punts or fourth down conversions where you're throwing. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I get all that. And I think if I had to key a unit that I was excited about their performance in this game, it is the Chiefs defense. They can cover well. They're playing well so far this season. They're giving up a lot more than I would have expected on the ground, weirdly. So I would expect that the Broncos try to play a little bit of ball control here. But again, rather than opt for the long field goal, trying to bury the Chiefs in their own end zone, maybe setting up a safety opportunity isn't the craziest thing. And actually, yeah, I mean, I'm going to think about some exotic same game parlay type of approaches to this game, because there's going to be some weird stuff for sure. In games where you do have field position battles like this and teams not opting not to kick long field goals, chances for safety should go up. I think Pacheco is going to be the offensive superstar for the Chiefs in this one, just based on how he matches up against the Broncos defense. And I think ultimately the Chiefs get a comfortable home win.
Yeah, I am in agreement in a lot of ways there. I will say with the win, Russell Wilson's arm will be put to the test because Javonte Williams only 2 carries last week. Is supposed to be active, but don't know how healthy he is coming off a significant knee injury. And then you got Samaje Perine and Jaleel McLaughlin as your 2 running backs there. So I don't have much faith in the Broncos offense, especially with the win factor. So a lot of great breakdowns, a lot of great bets. Before we get out of here, Drew, best bet for you from the show, what you like? Indiana team total under.
I'm going to go with Wisconsin minus 10, I think. Indiana team total under is good. That's good. But that's yours. That's your bet, man. I'm going to go with Wisconsin minus 10. I think I really think they can play keep away. I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into the result between Iowa and Penn State, but 31-0, 28-0. I think that's what we're looking at here. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, the loser of that game has scored 10 or fewer points in 3 straight. I think that happens again here. So Iowa should be the losing team. I'm with you. And like I said, Indiana team total under or no touchdown scored. Best way to attack that game. But I like our looks here in Chiefs versus Broncos too. So get ready to sweat. A lot of unders on the board for Drew and Vaughn. We appreciate you for tuning in. Of course, we appreciate you guys making money with us as well. Shout out to producer Dan for coming through today and holding us down. Thank you for everyone watching live on Bet the Edge. Don't forget to drop a like or subscribe and do the same on Amazon Music, amazon.com/NBCsports.com. All right. Best of luck, everybody. Enjoy the sweats. See you next time.